Thank you, Senator. Mr. Washington, how are you?
Good, sir.
Good. The Biden administration recently announced equity czars in every department, in every agency. These czars, of course, haven't been authorized by Congress in any way, shape, or form, but will implement initiatives to deliver radical, quote, equitable outcomes. This really isn't about opportunity for all Americans, but mandating certain outcomes and virtue signaling. And a simple yes or no answer would be great. Do you intend, if you're confirmed, to have this so-called equity czar as a member of your senior staff at the FAA?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I do think that there's a role to play for equity in organizations, so I would definitely look at that.
So you will or you will not have this equity czar as a member of your senior staff? Yes or no?
I think an equity person is necessary, yes.
Okay. The stated mission, of course, of the FAA is to provide the safest, most efficient aerospace system in the world. There seems to be a real disconnect between that mission, what some of the FAA's current activities are, and quite frankly, your nomination. So let me recap for you just a couple of months in transportation and aerospace news. The first complete ground stop of civilian air travel since 9/11 because of a complete meltdown of the NOTAM system, a train derailment in East Palestine that's slowly poisoning an Ohio community, several near misses of civilian and cargo planes at a Texas airport and a California airport. And I could keep going, but I think you get the point. And what is the Department of Transportation and the FAA focused on? Changing the name of the NOTAM system to be quote unquote more inclusive and putting time and effort into woke pet projects and putting time and also at a time where they could be improving our antiquated systems. And I'll tell you right now, the folks in Missouri and more broadly, the American people don't care one bit if people are getting a pat on the back at a conference posted by some DEI consultants on the name change. They want pilots who have the safety information, the best pilots in the world, so the American public can travel efficiently and safely. Your prior record and what you've already testified here today shows that you'll be more focused on aggressively pushing woke DEI projects instead of actually ensuring the safety and efficiency across our aerospace system. These DEI projects that you spent your time pushing are left-wing advocates' dreams, and they're mind-boggling, quite frankly. First, requiring all procurement proposals at the Denver airport to have an equity plan, and furthermore, force those reviewing the contract proposals to, quote, look for DEI social, cultural merits as they consider contracts. And this is a yes or no question. Do you intend to make FAA staffers, if you're confirmed, look at the social, cultural merits of contracts if you're confirmed?
Safety will always be my #1 priority.
Right, but the question is, you did this at Denver, but are you going to require the social, cultural merits of contracts to be considered?
I think that's one of the factors that we need to look at along with everything else.
With safety? Does that have anything to do with safety?
Senator, safety is the #1 priority.
Okay. Just last year, you wanted a Center for Equity and Excellence built in Denver for $40 million. This center would have a, quote, hall of equity for training sessions. Simple yes or no, Mr. Washington. Do you think families in Denver or across the country are interested in spending millions and millions of dollars for halls of equity?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think families in Denver are interested in safety at our airport. And I deliver that on a daily basis.
$40 million is a lot of money for halls of equity. You would agree with that, right? Is that really the most pressing issue?
I think one of the pressing issues is to make sure that we have a qualified workforce for years to come.
I would agree with that. Your record of pushing DEI and woke ideologies of the transit system you worked at is alarming. Last year, the Biden administration pushed a budget that listed as its priorities for the FAA in this order. First, climate change. Second, increasing equity. Then investments in safety and modernization. This emphasis matters. The FY 2023 FAA budget had over $570 million for equity, and then another $760 million for climate change projects. to meet global standards set by the International Civil Aviation Organization? Simple yes or no. If confirmed as the FAA administrator, do you intend to use taxpayer dollars to prioritize equity and climate change over safety?
I am going to follow the law, Senator.
Well, that's not the law, because Congress certainly hasn't voted on that. So are you going to prioritize those two as the president has indicated he would like to?
Safety will be number one for FAA.
Okay. And let me just close with this. I'll tell you that the folks of Missouri aren't interested in spending billions on halls of equity. They don't want decisions made on social, cultural merits. They don't want $500 million spent on undefined equity projects. They don't want a woke globalist ideological agenda thrust upon them by unelected bureaucrats at the FAA. And so this is our only opportunity to speak for them, because you're not elected. They want safety. They want reliability. They want affordability. And I am concerned the FAA has lost its way, and your track record seems to indicate that you're much in line with this prioritization of diversity, equity, inclusion, climate change over safety, and that is very concerning to me.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so every time I put out a video you can know about it. It'll come up in your feed. Hit that like button if you liked it, and be positive. Peace.